Hart Island was purchased by the City of New York in 1868 to serve as the city's public burial ground off the coast of City Island in the Bronx. Operated by the Department of Correction for over 150 years, Hart Island is a hauntingly beautiful landscape, rich with historic remnants and a final resting place for nearly 1 million New Yorkers. But as visitation to the island remains a challenge, artists and advocates have been working to honor memories and increase access to New York City's only public burial ground.
The landscape is relatively open. It's a wildlife sanctuary out there. It's an area that really is a beautiful part of New York City.
It's very quiet, it's very peaceful. It's just a lot of nature and sort of old buildings.
It's a very human place, a very humbling place, and getting there is like going to a prison. It's completely contrary to the spirit of the place.
Access is important for family members or friends or people with interest of going, but complicated because of the way it's run and the structure that's been set up for it.
Hart Island is an island off the coast of City Island in the Long Island Sound in the Bronx. It serves as the city's public cemetery. Anyone who is buried by New York City is buried on Hart Island. That can include anyone whose next of kin cannot be found, located, anyone who opts not to have a private burial, or anyone who is not identified. There's a captain and some officers and some heavy equipment operator, as well as a cadre of sentenced inmates. For the most part, they're misdemeanants. They're serving a year or less. The inmates definitely appreciate the time outside, as well as just getting out of jail for a little while.
There's still a lot of uncertainty as to who the folks on Hart Island might be, if somebody's loved one might have ended up there or not. And right now you have to go through a pretty intense process of showing that you have someone buried on the island before you are allowed to visit, and I don't understand whose interest that serves. Maybe it's time that the folks who can make the decisions go and see for themselves why people think it's important to open to the public more.
A lot of people who have grown up in New York City never knew about Hart Island. So in that sense, it's been great for opening up conversation about sort of land use, about history, about memory, about grieving. Artists, they have a unique perspective. The project offers a viewpoint for an audience to feel that distance, to feel that lack of access.
So I started the Hart Island Project in 1991 at the peak of the AIDS epidemic, and I went back there with a photographer named Joel Sternfeld to show a part of the city that was really unchanged. It was really this really beautiful place, a place that reflects the stories of that community. The question is, does the public have the right to access their cemetery? I realize it's not that simple, but in the end, that's kind of what we need. There's two sides to this thing. So sometimes we just need a good song to get us to the other side.
We have experience taking an abandoned island and making it into a park where people go. It's not something that should be difficult for us as a city to provide kind of access to another abandoned island.
I'm not sure what Hart Island will be after it stops being the active Potter's Field. I'm not sure that anyone at this point really knows for sure what that will look like.
This is a quintessentially New York place. It's really something we should be proud of, and I think the public would really like to be able to go there.
So as we reflect on the history, conditions, and lives that are all part of Hart Island, artists and advocates continue pushing for new legislation and improved public access. And as city officials start the process of transferring control, we should all take a moment to consider the impact of this transition, both on Hart Island and on people's lives throughout the city.